Excuse me? Did you just ask what was BGK Network for? I'm glad that you asked. Let me get the number up because I know you're going to call. So, BGK was founded by Michael. What happened to the number? The number's at the top of the screen now. But anyway, get the number. As I was saying, BGK Network was founded by... It's at the bottom of the screen. Really? Really? Okay. I'm sorry for calling you Michael. Apostle, just put me back where I can talk. Just put me back, please. Wow, some people are so sensitive, right? But seriously, what you just saw was a sample of what Apostle Michael Dulaney and Evangelist Tiffany can do through virtual ministry with BGK Network. They founded BGK to help people like you and myself to put the gospel out around the world. It's a great opportunity. I do encourage you to call the number. It's more affordable than you think. Give them a call. I did.
BGK 24/7 Online Christian TV Network. Making what was once impossible, possible.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of In View with Sam and Donardo. My name is Sam Wujiri-Kuma, and I'm so happy to be with you guys today.
And I'm Dr. Donardo Ramos, and we are very happy to discuss a topic that we consider to be very important.
Love. I think we all have a pretty good idea of what we envision love could look like, but it's important to call out that in human trafficking, love doesn't look like that. And this is what we want to talk to you about today. What love isn't. Given that it's Valentine's weekend and Super Bowl weekend, there's a lot going on this weekend that might look like it's going to be love. But we're here to tell you that we need to take a good hard look at things because love doesn't usually look this way. Many people think that trafficking starts with kidnapping, but there's actually multiple forms of trafficking, and that sort of trafficking that happens in the movie Taken is less than 15% of real human trafficking. So what does real human trafficking look like? Well, Gennaro?
Well, usually it's a Romeo trafficker, which, is befitting to Love Doesn't Look Like That, isn't it? And that's where the trafficker has the victim to believe that, he's the love of her life, that they are made for each other, that, nothing can separate them. And so after that bond is built, whatever, he asks her to do, she will. Because what do you do for those that you love? You do whatever they ask you to. You do whatever you believe is necessary to advance them, to get them to the next level. But with that, we also know that love sometimes, in this industry anyway, love can hurt, and love is bitter, and love is brutal. And this is how the idea of what love doesn't look like isn't necessarily grasped by many of those who are victims.
Absolutely. Because, see, unfortunately, in the realm of human trafficking, manipulation is a big part of what people see when they start the grooming process, right? And when you are either having housing insecurity, food insecurity, the insecurity of knowing where your next paycheck's coming from, you're much more vulnerable, right? And it's much easier for this to happen. And in the, days when I was trafficked, this was done a lot more face to face, right? And you'd be standing outside of a shelter, or you would be, trying to earn enough money for a meal, and somebody would start to groom you on the streets. But that's not what grooming looks like anymore.
No.
Today, it's all online.
It's all online, and the groomer is working with people of all ages. They're just not middle age, but they're young girls, they're old women, and they lure them in by causing them to feel that they're in love with them, that they are their heart's desire, and they build this relationship, as I've stated, and particularly for those who may have low self-esteem, or they may be vulnerable because they just broke up with the love of their lives, and so they're more vulnerable to whatever the trafficker is. And so this person begins to have this conversation with them to find out what's happening in their lives, where they are, and they begin to tailor that communication, as if you were dating. You tailor that communication so that it causes the trafficker to seem as if he's really on the side of that girl.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, grooming has taken on many different personas today. So when it comes to kids, it's happening online with video games and social media platforms, and befriending them. In fact, I was watching a speech a couple of weeks ago, given by one of the Indiana State Police youth educators, and she was talking about the fact that this right here that we give our children all the time now, this is not a phone anymore, folks. This is a little computer. There are apps on this that traffickers can follow your kids around with. And it's amazing what information this device is easily and quickly transmitting. And I was in shock because she was able to tell me that I had a Dexcom device on, which made me a diabetic, which is all true. That I have a set of information on my phone, and she was able to point that out. And then she was able to tell me literally in which direction I was moving as I headed off to the restroom. In other words, this is giving the traffickers the ability to follow you around. Now, all a trafficker needs is some time alone with your kid to develop some trust. And these days, it's 24 hours before they have befriended your child. And then they can play a short game or a long game to get your child alone. And this can be at a sporting event that your kid's going to, a dance event, a movie, the library. There's not a place that you can say, oh, this is completely safe, because these devices have made everything just a little bit less safe, folks. And that's not to say that the answer is to take away the devices. This is not the answer. The answer is to educate our children on what love, friendship, and acquaintance danger really looks like.
Yeah, and part of that is because I don't believe we communicate anymore as a family with our children, with each other. And so what happens, the young people begin to develop their own medium whereby they communicate with other people to get that attention, whereas the parents in so many instances just put the kid in front of the television or put them in front of the phone, and they're free to do whatever they choose to with no supervision whatsoever. We need to be more involved, and being involved means that we do have those conversations with our kids.
Absolutely. I mean, we all can agree that we need community in order to raise our children in the way in which they should go, right? And part of that today is introducing them to both stranger danger, acquaintance danger, and family danger. The interfamilial trafficking is something that really people don't want to talk about.
No, they don't.
And
they don't. They're afraid to find it.
While we're all talking about Valentine's Day in a romantic love scenario, let's for a moment talk about the love of a family, right?
Yeah.
We've come to assume that familial love is a positive thing.
Yeah.
But unfortunately, we live in a world where familial trafficking is an actual problem that
Yeah.
nobody wants to discuss.
No, they don't want to discuss it because it's too close to home. They don't want to know the truth too many times, because if they know the truth, then that means this person that's a part of their family who they hold in high esteem is not who they thought they were. And too many times, the unfortunate thing is, with love looking this way, the child is oftentimes dismissed. And told not to say anything, told not to tell anyone, and in other instances led to believe that the child is at fault.
Hmm. I'm we're gonna have a little story of one of our survivors come up now. We've changed her name for safety, but we're gonna call this Ariana's story. And we'd like you to just, take note of what it looks like, because it definitely doesn't look like love. And this pregnancy was not wanted by her mom. So now she's got homelessness, right? And shelter insecurity. So what happens? With nowhere else to go, she lived with her trafficker. She was repeatedly sold to men throughout her entire pregnancy. The beautiful baby boy was sold for use in child pornography. This was 2018, and we headed off to Super Bowl. And Ariana is actually now way past 19, but when we first helped her, she and her beautiful 3-year-old son were able to be given housing, and they were set up to success and are today safe, and were matched with local counselors and resources to assist. And you see, this is what our Super Bowl interventions can do, because we can help 1, 2, 5, but every life matters, guys. And this is why we can't do it alone. We need you to be a part of this. So as you think about, Super Bowl tomorrow, please consider that there's a lot of other things going on. And we want people to remember that love has many faces, and that's not a good face of love. But here's another not so happy face of love as well. People who are involved in domestic violence or divorce, particularly living in the suburbs, are often vulnerable, aren't they?
They are. They are. Because the women are particularly going through a rough time. They're trying to figure out how to gain custody of their children. Until things are settled, they need money to support themselves and their children. And so you have a Romeo trafficker who will come along and, offer to help her, take care of her, be by her side, be there for her. But then things tend to go south. She learns very quickly what love doesn't look like. It can happen in many different ways. He can record her doing things in his place, not appropriately dress, and then use those things against her, threaten to send those things to her soon to be ex-husband so that he would have something against her. He could send it to the lawyers himself. He could do so many things to now try to coerce her to do what he wants her to do, and that is to sleep with other men, to prostitute herself for him. And if her back is up against the wall, and if she's in that place and she really wants to take care of her children, she really wants her children, she already has felt that she has no other hope. What does she feel she can do other than to listen to him and obey and follow what he actually says?
Thankfully, there are plenty of things you can do, right? So that's why we exist. That's why the human trafficking hotline exists. Please, folks, take out your phone and put the human trafficking hotline in it. It's 1-888-37-37-888. And that human trafficking hotline is super important, because if you see something, say something, folks. Because unfortunately, folks who are vulnerable and going through divorce, domestic violence, or other traumatic experiences, the death of a loved one, they are more susceptible. And if they end up online talking about these things out loud online as they process, traffickers are literally mining the internet for these sorts of tragedies, to see if they can capitalize on them by preying on the vulnerable. And as horrible as that sounds, unfortunately, it is the reality. And they know that these folks are craving love, whether they're children or adults. And that craving for love often turns into a nightmare experience.
Yeah, absolutely it does, because now they're in a position that they never thought they would get in their lives. And the very unfortunate thing is, for many of them, and as Sharmila has said, there is hope for them, but in the place where they are in their minds, they don't have any hope. And so they begin to do whatever they're told to do. And that goes south. That turns to violence many times. They become battered, they become abused, sometimes in worse situations than they have come out of. And then, because the trafficker has now alienated them from their support system, the people who would be around them to give them knowledge and wisdom, this individual now has no alternative but to be 100% beholden to the trafficker. And so now she is under his grip, under his control. So whatever beatings, whatever she goes through when she's selling herself, whatever, because that's abuse too. Because there are many fantasies that are played out many times when the women are forced to prostitute themselves. You know, the Johns come and they want different ideas of what they're lacking even in lives. Love doesn't look the way it needs to for them either. And so what we have is a scenario that's constantly going around, of people wanting love, looking for love. But at the end of the day, we know that love doesn't look like that. You have a woman who is shattered emotionally. She's now being shattered physically, and we are there because of you, to give her hope, to let her know love doesn't have to look this way. This is not love.
And see, folks, unfortunately, people who've never experienced the love of Christ, who've never understood what unconditional love can feel like, have no frame of reference through which to process the rest of these scenarios. And so they become bitter, because they just don't know any better. But if we can show love, and we can have that as close to unconditional love as possible, that we are showering on folks, it is one of the surest ways to bring them out of these situations, because trust and the speed of trust is significantly increased by showing love. In fact, traffickers know this, because at the beginning of a relationship, they show great amounts of love, right? It's just like a domestic violence situation. There's that honeymoon period where everything's coming up roses, right? Very rarely do people who are perpetrators of domestic violence actually show those colors up front. They show amazing amounts of love. And the same is necessary as we help folks leave these situations of trauma. It is necessary to gain trust through love. And, there's nothing more important than love, right? The Bible tells us that there's nothing more important than this. And so, loving our neighbor as ourselves is one of the best ways that you can show what love really looks like to victims of human trafficking or any sort of traumatic situation, because it takes time, guys, right? And they're not they're and you we as volunteers and folks who are serving in our churches or in our communities have to remember that, um, for people who've been abused, the hurting don't know how to do anything except hurt, right?
That's true.
So we
That's
have to
true.
be so much more patient, right?
Exactly, and that's why, as believers, since we don't know, because a trafficker and the victim, they don't come in a specific package, looking a certain way all of the time. You can't always smell them out of the crowd. You can't just point them out, and because of that, we need to always portray a Christ-like demeanor and attitude. We need to always exemplify love. Love is patient. Love is kind. Love is forgiving. We need to always do this, even to people we don't know. I know most of us, we have like our group of 5 or 7 people who we're really close with, and we have no problem with forgiving all day long, no matter what happens. But then the rest of the 500 or 1,000, it's a bit iffy. And those are the people we need to show Christ's love, because here's the thing. We just don't know. Bible tells us that we could be entertaining an angel unaware, so to be careful how we are treating strangers. We may be attending to a trafficking victim, an abused wife unaware, a runaway child unaware. So we need to be careful how we're treating them. Let's be forgiving. They do something, say something that doesn't quite necessarily fit within our mold of culture. Let us be understanding of that, because it could be that one incident that will allow us to show this person what love really does look like.
Yeah. And, folks, it's so important that if you suspect that you are coming into contact with someone who might be either in an abusive relationship or a trafficking relationship or anything in which trust has been broken, that it is super important that you bring in professionals to deal with this, because it's so easy to cause irreparable harm here. Because the best thing you can do is be positive, loving, caring, and courteous at all times, because that little bit of kindness makes a huge difference. So, what do I mean by that? So, we often do outreach into the strip clubs, and very, very often when we go into a strip club, the girls will literally follow us into the dressing room so that they can give us their prayer requests. And just that tiny little bit of love that's shown to them makes all the difference in the world. I've had girls leave lap dances to come and talk to us. I've had girls yell during a lap dance to basically, leave theirs for them, or to wait for them so that they can come talk to us, because we are one of the few folks that, come in there with no expectation and only the desire to show love. And they've never experienced that kind of agape love before, right? And so they don't know what it is, but they know it feels right. And we want to really help them by providing these experiences to understand that there is another kind of love out there. There is another opportunity to take a step. And this helps us build trust as we work that cycle, because very often girls who meet us for the first time, would you get in my car the first time you met me? I mean, this is not something, they don't know if they're going from the frying pan into the fire. And so by having the consistency, it helps us to shower them with love.
And it helps to alleviate the sense of shame that so many of them feel. It's not just the fear, but there's shame mixed with that as well, because they've been led to believe
Guilt
that it is
too.
their fault,
Mhm.
and guilt. So part of the reason I think the success that Rahab's we've had in the strip clubs and things like that is because it's not judgmental. It is eliminating that curtain of shame from them, that curtain of guilt from them. Because they know we're not going to sit out on the lawn of any establishment. We're not going to picket the establishment, because when you show love, you don't need to do any of that. The Bible says, with love and kindness have I drawn you. We are Christians. We are believers in the Most High God. There are just some things we are not going to do, but we are going to step forward and make a difference. And in this case, removing the shame, removing the guilt, and not doing anything that would have these ladies to feel as less of themselves than what many of them already do.
Absolutely. Yep, absolutely true. And I think that it is really important that we remember that the way that people don't remember what you say to them or what you do to them. They remember how you make them
Yep,
feel,
they do,
right?
100%.
And so this is where traffickers have the upper hand, because they start by making them feel
Yeah,
loved
yeah,
and cared for. And to combat it, we need to bring forth that love and caring as well, so
100%.
that
Yeah.
they can feel it. And we really hope today that we're opening your eyes to some of the very real issues. And if you are coming in contact with, folks in your communities and your churches who have potentially been trafficked or are being trafficked now, the love piece is really important as a basis for trust building. And we would encourage you to reach out with that olive branch and then call our hotline so we can help you work through the next steps and provide the services needed, because it is important to surround people with love,
Yeah.
and then also to help people understand what love isn't. And if you've got a situation where you know that this is what love isn't, then please call us, because we have tons of resources that we can share with you to help move this from a dangerous situation to one with a happy, loving ending. Our hotline is 1-833-4-NEW-DAY or 1-833-436-9329. Again, that's 1-833-436-9329. And we hope that you will continue to stay tuned to your favorite internet broadcast platform, the BGK Network. We are so thrilled to be on here, and we thank the BGK Network for sponsoring us. Please tune in to our next episode. We are here every other Saturday. So today is the 12th of February. So 2 weeks from now, we'll look forward to seeing you again. And if you have any questions, please feel free to call us.
Absolutely. You can give us a call, 833-4-NEW-DAY, or go on our website, rahabsdaughters.org. We are excited, as always, to share information with you, and we expect and look forward to you taking that back into your communities. Until next time, have an awesome Valentine.
Yes, happy Valentine's weekend, happy Super Bowl weekend. Please join us for updates on social media as we continue to work through this weekend. And if you have any questions, let us know. With love.
With love, guys.